Okay, let's dive in. We're heading back to Panem today, to a world many of you know intimately, the Hunger Games. But what if everything you thought you knew about how the major events unfolded, all that apparent chaos and cruel luck, was actually, well, a meticulously calculated game?
That's right. We're looking at a theory that's really captured attention, particularly from the analysis done by the Super Carlin brothers.
Ah, yeah, I've seen their stuff. Good channel.
It takes a hard look at the source material, the books, the films, even Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and proposes something pretty radical.
Which is?
That the key moments weren't random acts of fate, but strategic moves in a brutal chess match played between Alma Coin and Coriolanus Snow.
Wow. Okay, that transforms the entire story. Our mission in this deep dive is to unpack this specific theory and see just how convincing its arguments are for this high-stakes political game.
Exactly. Let's unpack this.
So where does this theory even begin? What's the starting point?
So the theory really hinges on reinterpreting the absolute starting pistol of the entire saga. Primrose Everdeen's name being drawn at the reaping for the 74th Hunger Games.
The moment that changed everything.
Yeah.
And we know how the reaping works, right? Your name goes in once at 12, twice at 13, and it just stacks year after year.
Right, and you can add more entries, Tesserae, if you need grain or oil for the family.
Which Katniss did. Lots of times.
Exactly. And when you look at the mechanics for that specific reaping in District 12, Prim's selection is statistically, well, kind of wild.
How so?
She's only 12. Her name is in just one single slip of paper. Katniss, because she took Tesserae for her family, had her name in 20 times.
20 times. And Gale,
who's 18 by then, he had his name in 42 times.
42 entries versus 1. Okay, most readers, most viewers, myself included, see Prim's name being pulled as just the worst possible luck. This gut-wrenching, cruel irony that sets everything in motion.
And the theory agrees it's cruel, definitely.
Yeah.
But not just because of the odds. This is where it drops its first, major bomb. It argues this wasn't random at all. This was the very first deliberate move by Alma Coin in a long-term plan to bring down Snow.
Wait, Coin from District 13? How?
The theory posits the reaping, specifically for District 12's female tribute, was rigged to select Prim.
Rigged. But why Prim?
Because they knew with absolute certainty that Katniss would immediately volunteer for her sister.
Whoa, okay. So the theory says Coin orchestrated the event that forced Katniss into the arena.
Exact. Knowing Katniss would become the spark, the eventual Mockingjay, all because she volunteered to save Prim.
And the brutal, horrifying irony the source emphasized. Katniss fights the Capitol, becomes the Mockingjay, ends the games, all for Prim.
And Prim dies anyway in the final battle. Killed by the very conflict, Katniss essentially started to protect her.
That is dark.
Precisely. The deep, dark twist is that all of Katniss's effort is ultimately subverted. But the core reinterpretation is that Prim's name wasn't random fate. It was step one of Coin's plan.
Okay, hang on. Rigged reaping sounds like a massive accusation. Is there any evidence in the books, in the world Suzanne Collins built, that this kind of manipulation is even possible for someone other than the Capitol?
That's a critical question, yeah. And the source points to evidence that rigging isn't unheard of in Panem, though usually we assume it's the Capitol doing it.
Like how?
Well, Katniss herself notices that children of victors seem to appear in the games maybe suspiciously often.
Yeah, I remember that.
And Gale, too. He suspects the Capitol rigs things sometimes just for dramatic effect,
Okay, but that's still the Capitol. What about someone else?
But the theory's strongest piece of evidence comes from the prequel, Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes.
Lucy Greybeard.
Absolutely. This is where it gets really interesting. In the 10th Hunger Games, also in District 12, Lucy Greybeard is selected. And we learn pretty explicitly that her selection wasn't random.
Right, the mayor rigged because his daughter hated her.
Exactly. The mayor of District 12 specifically influenced the drawing to ensure her name was picked.
Okay, I see where you're going.
This is crucial because it proves unequivocally that someone outside the Capitol, with influence over the local process in this case, the District 12 mayor, could manipulate the reaping.
So Coin could have potentially worked with the mayor. Maybe he was a secret sympathizer.
That's what the theory leverages, yeah. That Coin, maybe working in secret with the mayor, could have ensured Prim's name was the one called, feeling totally confident Katniss would step forward. It sets a chilling precedent that makes the whole rigged reaping idea plausible within the world of Panem.
Okay, plausible. So they weren't just hoping for a volunteer from District 12. The theory says they were watching and specifically targeting Katniss via Prim. But why Kat? What made her the perfect pre-selected candidate to ignite a rebellion?
Well, the theory argues that Coin and District 13 weren't just sitting around waiting for something to happen. They were actively observing the districts, looking for potential spark,
Looking for a weapon, basically.
Or maybe a symbol. They needed someone who could survive the games, sure, but maybe more importantly, someone who could become a powerful symbol.
In Katniss, this untrained girl from the poorest district fit that bill. Seems as a long shot.
Counterintuitively, yes. I mean, she wasn't a career tribute, obviously, but she had unique, valuable skills.
Hunting. The bow.
Right, which gave her a real fighting chance. But her real asset, the theory argues, was her character. Her deep loyalty to family, shown by hunting for them illegally for years, and then that instant volunteering for Prim.
That sacrifice, yeah, that definitely resonated.
It instantly made her compelling, an underdog everyone in the districts could sort of see themselves in, or at least root for.
Plus, she spent all that time outside the fence with Gale,
who was pretty outspoken about his anti-capital feelings even back then.
Right.
Which the theory suggests District 13, likely with advanced surveillance tech. I mean, if Snow could know about Katniss and Gale kissing and catching fire.
Good point. Then Coin's network was probably just as good, if not better.
Exactly. So they likely knew about Gale's influence. So Katniss had the survival skills, the inherent appeal, the anti-capital exposure via Gale.
And the location.
And geographically, District 12 was the closest to District 13 and seemed to have maybe less intense security than some other district. It made her a strategically viable target to observe and potentially to trigger.
Okay, so they've identified their potential spark, but a rebellion needs a symbol, something people can rally behind. How does the Mockingjay fit into this premeditated plan?
The Mockingjay pin. This is where it gets incredibly significant in the theory. Remember Madge Undersea?
The mayor's daughter. Katniss's friend.
She gives Katniss this pin just moments before she leaves for the capital. The source highlights this and asks, is this really just a coincidence? A simple gift from a friend?
Especially if the theory about her father, the mayor, potentially working with Coin, holds any water.
Exactly. The theory suggests Madge's father might have nudged her, influenced her, to give Katniss that specific pin.
Because the symbolism is so potent.
Hugely potent. Mockingjays shouldn't even exist, right? They're a natural mutation, a byproduct of the capital's failed Jabberjay spy mutts breeding with wild birds. Their very existence is an act of defiance against the capital's control, something they couldn't engineer or stop.
And Snow hated them. He had a specific personal history with them, a deep dislike going way back to his youth in District 12. We see it clearly in Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. He couldn't stand their singing, their mimicry. It drove him nuts.
Right, and the theory says Coin knew this. But how could she know such a specific personal detail about Snow's past? Something from, 65 years earlier.
How?
This is another point where the theory loops back to Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, specifically that unresolved ending. What actually happened to Lucy Gray after her final encounter with Snow in District 12? The book leaves it ambiguous.
She just disappeared. Head north. Maybe towards where District 13 was rumored to be, right?
The theory posits she survived, that she made it to District 13, maybe was even one of its founders or early leaders, and she brought crucial intelligence about young Coriolanus Snow.
Including his weaknesses.
Including his fatal flaw, something identified really early in Ballad, a tendency towards obsession, towards fixation that makes him miss other dangers brewing around him. The theory argues Coin leveraged this intel directly by making Katniss the Mockingjay a female tribute from District 12, a performer in her own way, echoing Lucy Gray. Coin knew Snow would become fixated, especially when you add in the whole star-crossed lovers narrative with Peeta.
It triggers his past trauma and exploits his known psychological weakness. It's diabolical.
Yes. Katniss becomes the perfect maddening distraction, branded with the symbol specifically designed to prey on Snow's history and blind him to the real threat Coin was building underground.
And Coin wasn't just tossing Katniss into the fire alone. The theory suggests she surrounded Katniss with a carefully selected support team right from the very beginning.
Starting with Peeta. The theory argues he was just as intentionally selected in his own way as Katniss.
Why him specifically?
Well, he was capable enough to survive and be useful, definitely. But crucially, unlikely to ever overshadow Katniss as the main symbol, right? And he had that very obvious known crush on her.
Which Coin's surveillance would have picked up.
Almost certainly. This made him the perfect, albeit likely completely unknowing, participant in that essential star-crossed lovers narrative thing.
That romance angle was critical for getting Panem's attention and sympathy. Made the games watchable in a whole new way.
Absolutely. Then there's Cinna, Katniss's stylist. The source highlights that Cinna deliberately asked for District 12 in his first year. he confirmed it.
Which is weird, right? It was seen as the least desirable placement. Why would this incredibly talented designer want the district no one expects anything from?
The theory suggests Snow wasn't just a stylist, he was deeply involved with the rebellion and District 13's advanced tech right from the start. He was Coin's, like, ace in the hole, right there inside the Capitol.
Position perfect.
To ensure Katniss stood out, creating those iconic, technologically advanced outfits like the Girl on Fire dresses, and even designing the Mockingjay outfit before it was needed.
He ensured she was visually unforgettable.
Yeah.
A focal point for the cameras, for Panem.
Exactly. He was there to craft the image, make her undeniable. And finally, Plutarch Heavensby.
The head game maker for the Quarter Quell. Big rebellion leader.
Yes, but he was also a game maker during Katniss's first games.
The one she shot in the arm with an arrow during training. I forgot about that.
That's him. Now, the theory points out that Hunger Games arenas are designed years in advance. Big projects.
Right.
So if Coin and Plutarch had identified Katniss as a potential candidate years prior, knowing the year Prim would enter the reaping pool,
Plutarch could have influenced the arena choice.
he could have potentially pulled strings, ensuring a particularly favorable arena for Katniss's skills. The Woods was chosen for the 74th, even if he wasn't head game maker yet. His influence, maybe as head of propaganda or game maker.
Could have swayed Seneca Crane, the actual head game maker that year.
Possibly. And remember, Plutarch gave her that incredibly high training score, the 11.
Which made everyone sit up and take notice.
The theory sees that as Plutarch's direct hand, highlighting Katniss's potential right out of the gate, giving her credibility and attention before she even set foot in the arena.
Okay, so according to the theory, walking into that first arena, Katniss wasn't just luck, the stage was deliberately set.
Volunteering triggered by Prim's rig selection, a useful partner in Peta, a revolutionary stylist in Cinna, a high score from Plutarch, a suitable environment potentially influenced by Plutarch.
It felt random and terrifying to her, obviously, but the theory argues this was Coin and Plutarch carefully stacking the deck, giving her the best possible fighting chance.
They provided the opportunity, yes, and the source material is clear what Katniss did inside.
Forming the alliance with Rue, using her hunting skills, pulling off the berry trick.
That was all her. Those spontaneous acts of defiance and compassion were, as the book says, more than the rebellion ever could have asked for. They couldn't script that.
But even during the games, the theory suggests Plutarch might have directly intervened again.
The sudden rule change, allowing 2 victors from the same district.
Yeah, that came out of nowhere.
It happened late in the game. It was very specific to District 12's situation, and it immediately propelled Katniss to find Peta and lean hard into the romance angle for survival.
And with a revolutionary like Plutarch sitting in the game maker control room.
The theory argues this doesn't feel like a coincidence. It feels like a direct manipulation.
To ensure both Katniss and Peta survive together.
Yes, cementing that crucial star-crossed lovers narrative that fueled the Mockingjays. Their joint defiance, their joint survival, was far more powerful propaganda than if just one had made it out.
The Mockingjay needed her supporting player to survive.
Wow.
Makes sense.
Exactly. It was a package deal by then.
Okay, so moving into Catching Fire, we get that devastating twist for the Quarter Quell. Tributes reaped from the existing pool of victors.
Right. And the source presents 2 possibilities here. Was the timing Katniss having just won the previous year, making her eligible just a horrible random coincidence based on rules written 75 years prior?
Oh.
Or was President Snow seeing Katniss become this undeniable symbol of the growing rebellion during her victory tour, deliberately orchestrating this specific rule now as his move in the game to eliminate her?
The theory strongly leans towards Snow making this rule specifically to get rid of Katniss, doesn't it?
Yes. Seeing it as Snow's predictable countermove, his fixation on Katniss, the symbol, blinds him to the fact that his own head game maker, Plutarch, is working against him, and that Coin is the real hidden threat.
So Coin's strategy is working. Snow is distracted.
Exactly. He's focused on the pawn coin dangled right in front of him, which, the theory argues, proves Coin's strategy is effective.
And Plutarch gives Katniss that cryptic hint during the victory tour party, right? Showing her his Mockingjay watch.
And mentioning he thought she'd just be a mentor this year. Yeah.
How does the theory interpret that?
As Plutarch subtly confirming to Katniss in his own coded way that he knows what's happening, that she's part of a larger plan, maybe even offering a sliver of reassurance that she's not alone in this.
And the Quarter Quell ends spectacularly, with Katniss shooting that arrow into the arena's force field.
Destroying it, yeah, leading to her escape.
Was that just pure instinct?
Well, the source points out it wasn't a completely spontaneous act in itself, maybe. District 13, specifically BT, who was with her, was already attempting to bring down the field electronically.
All right.
Katniss essentially completed their planned extraction maneuver, maybe accidentally, maybe guided subconsciously by BT's earlier actions. It led directly to her being picked up by the District 13 hovercraft.
So she's brought to District 13, the heart of the rebellion, and everyone there just expects her to naturally step into the Mockingjay role they've been carefully building her for.
But she doesn't want it. She's resistant, traumatized, angry, and frankly, she's not a very good actress when she tries to fake it.
Right, the initial propos are terrible. She can't fake the inspiring propaganda they need her to deliver.
Secoin, Haymitch, Plutarch, they study her. They look at her most impactful moments, volunteering for Prim, singing True, the berries with Peeta, and they realize her power comes from genuine emotion, from spontaneous action, not from following a script.
So Coin needs real emotion.
And according to the theory, Coin's chilling solution is to send her into a real combat zone, to provoke that genuine reaction, to essentially weaponize her trauma.
This leads us to District 8. Katniss is sent there to film Propos, those propaganda videos after recent bombings. It's presented as a relatively controlled environment, right?
Ostensibly, yeah. And seeing the wounded in the makeshift hospital clearly affects Katniss deeply. Her presence alone offers hope. Boggs notes, and it's such a powerful line, "It's the sight of me alive that is the inspiration."
It reminds her that her survival means something beyond just the arena, that she's a symbol, whether she likes it or not.
But then comes the moment the theory highlights as particularly dark and potentially revealing. Boggs receives a coded message about incoming bombers before the District 8 warning alarms even sound.
Giving his crew just enough time to start moving, to get Katniss under cover.
Exactly. Then hovercrafts bearing the capital seal appear and bomb the hospital, specifically targeting the defenseless wounded inside.
Horrific.
Cressida is told, and she tells Katniss, that President Snow aired the bombing live across Panem as a message. It's presented as a clear capital war crime, designed to demoralize the rebels.
But this is where the theory makes its most shocking claim, isn't it?
This is it. The theory argues that Coin intentionally bombed her own people in District 8, used hovercrafts disguised with capital seals.
Whoa, okay. Why? What possible reason could Coin have for doing something so monstrous?
Her own wounded, her own civilian. The theory offers several interlocking reasons for this calculated horror. Reason 1, to solidify Katniss's hatred of Snow in the capital, to turn her grief and shock into pure righteous fury, making her a genuinely furious and therefore believable Mockingjay. Seeing the wounded was moving, but believing Snow deliberately targeted them for death, that's what produces the raw emotion of, if we burn, you burn with us.
It needed to feel personal for Katniss.
Deeply personal. Reason 2 links back to Gale's insight about Katniss, which he shares later.
What's that?
Gale points out that Katniss is always at her best, her most authentic and impactful, when she's motivated by protecting people in Prim, Rue, Peeta. The theory suggests Coin understood this dynamic perfectly.
So she sets the stage.
She takes Katniss to the hospital, knowing it will tap into that protective instinct, and then bombs them to maximize the emotional impact, ensuring Katniss believes Snow is the monster responsible. It's pure psychological manipulation.
That's incredibly cynical, and the darkest, most disturbing possibility raised by the theory. What's reason 3?
That Coin might even have been trying to get Katniss killed in the attack.
What? Why? After all the effort to get her there.
Because Katniss is unpredictable, difficult to control. She doesn't follow orders well. She's not an ideal puppet for Coin's long-term plan. But if she had died as a martyr in District 8, seemingly bombed by Snow while trying to help the wounded,
that would have been an incredibly powerful and perhaps more manageable symbol for the rebellion than a living, complicated, questioning Katniss.
Exactly. A dead martyr is easier to control than a living icon.
That's a chilling thought. And Boggs getting that early warning before the alarms, that definitely makes it seem like someone on Coin's side, someone in District 13, knew the attack was coming.
It's a key piece of circumstantial evidence for the theory. It argues Coin used those hovercrafts with capital seals as a deliberate false flag operation, sacrificing her own people as a cold, strategic move to weaponize Katniss's rage and grief.
This level of strategic ruthlessness, if true, brings us to the Star Squad. Katniss's unit during the televised push into the Capitol, or, as Finnick bitterly calls it, the 76th Hunger Game.
Right. This propaganda mission. And during this push, Boggs steps on a hidden landmine, a pod, and is mortally wounded.
A devastating moment.
And in his final moments, he does something really surprising. He transfers command authority, the Hollow, which is like their tactical map and communication device, directly to Katniss.
Bypassing Jackson, his official second-in-command.
Exactly. And he gives Katniss that urgent, cryptic warning, whispering,
"Don't trust them. Don't go back. Kill Peeta. Do what you came to do."
The source argues Boggs, having been in District 8, having seen Coin operate and now seeing the deadly maneuvering in the Capitol, had finally pieced together the truth. He figured out Coin's deception, her ruthlessness.
He realized she couldn't be trusted.
That's the interpretation. Jacques then immediately challenges Katniss's new authority, demanding the Hollow.
And Katniss, thinking fast, invents a story about a secret mission assigned to her by Coin, one that only Boggs knew about.
A complete fabrication on the spot, but what's incredibly telling, according to the theory, is that Cressida, the director, filming their every move for the propos,
she backs Katniss up immediately.
Says Plutarch wants this filmed, the Mockingjay assassinating Snow, supports the lie.
Why would Cressida do that?
The theory suggests Cressida and Boggs, perhaps having discussed their suspicions, maybe having learned the truth about the District 8 bombing that Snow wasn't behind it, realized Coin's true nature. Cressida's decision to support Katniss's fabricated story could be her own act of subtle defiance against Coin,
helping Katniss gain autonomy.
Perhaps hoping Katniss will eventually expose Coin, or at least act as a check on Coin's absolute power now that Boggs is gone. Boggs' dying words become specific instructions based on a horrific truth he finally uncovered just before dying.
It all culminates in that final, awful confrontation in the Capitol. Hovercrafts, appearing to be from the Capitol, drop bombs near Snow's mansion.
Bombs on parachutes, looking like gifts. They explode among civilians gathered there, many of them children from the Capitol. And tragically, Prim is among them. She rushed forward as a medic.
Even the Capitol peacekeepers seemed confused, caught off guard by this attack.
It's chaos. And later, when Katniss confronts Snow after he's captured, held prisoner, despite everything he's done, the source highlights his crucial claim in that moment.
What does he say?
Snow insists he was just about to surrender when those bombs fell. He claims he had no working hovercrafts capable of dropping bombs like that, let alone bombing his own people, his potential shield.
He argues it destroyed any remaining loyalty his own side had for him.
Right, and he looks Katniss straight in the eye and says something like, "You really didn't think I gave the order, did you?
Yeah.
I thought we had agreed not to lie to each other."
That line again.
And he points out the bomb design, the delayed second explosion, designed to kill rescuers, medic.
Just like a controversial design Gale and BT developed in District 13.
Exactly. Snow implies Coin used their own horrific tactic against her own potential citizens and, crucially, against Prim.
This leaves us with that central, really unsettling question the source forces us to confront, doesn't it? Is Snow, the man who epitomizes evil in this world, lying? Is this just one last desperate effort to manipulate Katniss?
Or is he, in this final moment, actually telling the unvarnished truth about Coin's ultimate act of depravity, revealing the real monster?
What does the theory conclude?
The theory, building on all the arguments we've discussed, the rigged reaping, the manipulated symbol, the likely District 8 bombing, Boggs' warning, the bomb design comes down firmly on the side that Snow is telling the truth.
That Coin bombed those children and Prim to secure her victory and eliminate any sympathy for the Capitol.
Yes, that Coin gave the order.
And Coin seems to solidify the theory's view of her true nature almost immediately after, doesn't she? By proposing a final symbolic Hunger Games.
Using the children of the captured Capitol elite, the children of victors and leaders.
The source calls this the completely terrible idea that just removes all doubt about her character.
It's appalling. The remaining victors vote. BT, Peeta, Annie vote no. Johanna and Enobaria vote yes. It comes down to Katniss and Haymitch.
Katniss votes yes, saying only for Prim, and Haymitch, watching her, follows her lead, always.
And the theory's interpretation of Katniss's yes vote here is absolutely crucial. She doesn't vote yes because she suddenly believes in more killing, more games.
No.
She votes yes because Coin proposing these games is the final, undeniable proof. Proof that Coin is just as ruthless, just as willing to sacrifice innocent lives for power and revenge as Snow ever was.
They are, as the theory puts it, different sides of the same coin, literally.
Exactly. Voting yes is the only way Katniss ensures she gets what she needs next.
The opportunity.
The weapon. The shot.
The chance to be the one to fire the final arrow at Snow's public execution, which she aims
at Coin.
At Coin. And Snow's reaction as he's choking, dying, being crushed by the crowd.
Yeah.
He laughs.
That horrible gurgling laugh. A triumphant sound, almost. The source calls this the ultimate kicker. In the theory's view, Snow knows he's physically defeated, his regime is over, but he wins the psychological game with Katniss in that instant.
How so?
His laughter either confirms to Katniss that he was right about Coin, validating her shocking action, or maybe it simply acknowledges Coin's death as the true, twisted victory in their long, brutal power struggle. The checkmate he couldn't deliver himself.
Wow. So taking all these threads together, I mean, this theory paints a radically different picture of the Hunger Games saga than the one most people probably hold.
It really does. It shifts the narrative from a straightforward rebellion against a purely evil dictatorship to a much more complex, much murkier political power struggle between two master manipulators.
With Katniss caught in the middle.
It argues Coin rigged the reaping, selected and shaped Katniss as a weapon, likely orchestrated horrific events like the District 8 and final Capitol bombings, which tragically killed Prim, all to fuel Katniss's rage and ultimately seize power for herself. And Snow, ironically, is the one who exposes Coin's true nature.
It forces you to completely reevaluate characters you thought you understood. Coin isn't just a stoic liberator. Snow isn't pure, unadulterated evil, maybe. And Katniss. Her role becomes much more complicated than just a simple rebel hero.
Exactly. It throws themes of manipulation, the insidious nature of propaganda, the corrupting influence of power, and the devastating costs of war into much sharper relief. It suggests that even the people fighting for freedom can become just as ruthless and power-hungry as the oppressors they seek to overthrow.
And it shows how information can be controlled, spun, even within the inner circle, like Boggs and Cressida seemingly believing Snow bombed District 8 until they potentially discovered Coin's terrible lie much later.
Yeah.
So this deep dive into the source material, seen through the lens of this particular theory, really does present Panem as a world dominated by these two master strategists, locked in a long, brutal game where the lines between hero and villain are astonishingly blurred.
And it leaves us, and you, the listener, with some pretty heavy questions to chew on. If you accept this theory, even parts of it, does it fundamentally change your perspective on who the real villain of the Hunger Games story? Is it Snow? Is it Coin? Are they equally monstrous?
Yeah, and consider this. If Coin was truly as ruthless and manipulative as Snow, does Katniss's final act, killing Coin, elevate her? Does it show her finally seeing the truth and choosing her own independent path, breaking free from being a pawn?
Or does it simply solidify her role as a powerful piece on the board who, after years of being moved by others, finally made one significant, devastating move of her own, but still ultimately within a game orchestrated by two leaders defined by their horrifying willingness to sacrifice innocent lives for power? Was her final act truly liberation, or just choosing which tyrant died?
That's a tough one. And here's where it gets really interesting. Maybe even a little uncomfortable. Think about how often we might see echoes of this kind of strategic manipulation, this blurring of lines between fighting for a cause and fighting simply for power, playing out not just in fiction, but in the world around us today.